Welcome in, fans, to another episode of the Two Line Pass Fanley Cup edition. We are nearing the end of the series, and we still have some excellent guests to talk to. Today, we have somebody that I think you're going to really enjoy hearing from. He is from Ogden, just like myself, a fellow Weber State Wildcat, alumni all, and an overall great hockey fan. We are excited to speak to Matt Trotter today, and excited, I think, for you to hear what he has to say. Matt, thanks so much for joining the show with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
We are excited. He's been a longtime listener of the show, and we are excited to get to know him more. Now, Matt, I have seen a few of your the things that you have posted, and I think you are among the newer fans of the Utah Hockey Club, now the Utah Mammoth. For those fans out there who don't know much about you, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, great. Like you said, I live up here in Ogden. I work downtown in Salt Lake, but when I found out that there was a hockey team, I was really excited because I've never really had a pro team that I've really followed, and I felt like it was a great entry point into it. And so actually the day of the very first game, the Chicago game, I was down on the plaza and I didn't get tickets to go in the game, but I was kind of down there trying to test out the atmosphere and test how things went. I got the SEG Plus, and so I basically watched, I think I've watched every single game. I got in trouble a little bit even because I was watching games during birthdays and birthday dinners and things like that. But yeah, so I'm brand new to hockey. I have a friend at work that's been into it for a while. And so it wasn't too hard to convince me to start watching games and start getting involved. I don't know. I'm just in that time of life. My wife and I, we have 6 kids. Our 5 oldest have moved out of the house, and our bonus is still living here. And so I kind of have more time and more money. And so I really want to be able to wanted to get into something. And it's just been, well, you guys know, it sucked me in. It's just so great and so fun and great to get to know. But I am, like you said, I think I'm a beginner, in the sport, but I think I'm coming along pretty well. Of my friends, I'm the hockey guy.
That's the way to be. It's everybody starts somewhere. And I'm interested to hear, so without having any hockey background, was it kind of like once the announcement was made that the Coyotes were moving to Utah, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to jump in, or was there a certain moment that kind of made you say, yeah, no, let's go all in?
No, as soon as I heard it, I wanted to jump in. There's a definite cost that's involved with being a fan and all of that. And so I wasn't sure how much I wanted to step into that. We've been fans of the local college teams, and so we've kind of traveled with teams and done that thing. And my wife made me promise that we wouldn't stop doing that if I started watching hockey. And so, yeah, it was kind of this barrier to entry. And really, my only familiarity was with the Jazz. And I also didn't really follow the Jazz. I mean, back the Stockton and Malone Jazz, I was really into. I could name every member of the Dream Team and all of that. But since then, I've kind of fallen away from that. But so my only experience really with basketball or with hockey or a pro sport was with the Jazz. So really what I would do is watch college ball, until bowl season ended, and then kind of convert over to basketball. And so I didn't know if that's what I would do with the hockey or what it was, but I literally got home during that Chicago game. I was there for the pregame stuff. I went home to watch the game, and I don't know, it just sucked me in. And so I can't really put my nose on exactly what it was, but what a great atmosphere. The game is so fast. The players are engaging, and the fans have been great. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, I've heard some people say that there's people that kind of guard their knowledge of hockey or look down on players, but that's not fans, but that's not been my experience here in Salt Lake or with this team. I really feel like people are engaging, they're ready to teach, but also if I make a mistake, which I do, I make mistakes, I say the wrong things all the time. People don't really jump on me to correct me. They're like, yeah, I know what you mean, and do that. So like I know on your podcast, it's okay to say Jersey. I've made that mistake many, many times. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's been really great, a great learning curve for me. But I feel like I'm out of the waiting pool, kind of. I'm more ready to swim.
I'll tell you this, you haven't lived until somebody just spams you on the internet that's saying that you don't know puck. That's when you know you've arrived and you're like, all right, I'm there. Once you go deep enough into the comments section, there's a lot of elitist jerks out there, but they love to hit you with the you don't know puck. And I'm like, all right, pal, whatever. But yeah, we welcome you in. And I'm glad that you haven't experienced that toxicity that can certainly exist, well, for any community online.
Yeah.
And Matt, I want to talk to you specifically about something that you're involved in. We all know there's no less than 7 Utah Mammoth podcasts. We have a lot of fans that are doing spaces and engaged in one way or another. And we all are coexisting and doing our own thing, but there is that overlap. Now, Matt, you're doing something that I have not seen yet. You are the creator and founder of Hockey Related. Now, this is a project where you're going into the lineage and the genealogy, of the NHL players. I want to give you the opportunity, talk us through how that project got started and your love of genealogy and now crossing over into hockey.
Yeah, and I kind of talked about this in my YouTube video, but I have a really bad habit of when I sit down and watch a TV or movie or sports games that I'm sitting and doing genealogy also. So I'm on my computer working, or not working, but just going through files and that. And it really started with Keller, which I knew when the season first started, I was down. I could only recognize really 2 players. Like if you showed me mug shots, I was Keller and Tuna, right? They were the only 2, and only because of Tuna's, that opening volley that he did where he said, it was so good. And so, but Keller, I have Kellers in my family line, my mother's side. We have a whole string of Kellers. And so really, I think where it started with the hockey stuff is I wanted to find out how I was, if I was and how I was related to Clayton Keller, which I did. I found out. And so, but there's also, I don't know, I just tinker and it helps me to be able to get to know the players on a different level in a different way, to kind of see where their background's from and things like that. You also see the players, even Keller, he grew up in St. Louis, and so he was a fan there, but there were a lot of, and he was playing hockey, but he was playing hockey with the Chuck brothers, and he was playing hockey with, like, he knows all these people. His dad played hockey. I think his grandpa took him out to play hockey. I can't remember the exact story right now. I'm blanking a little bit, but I've found that a lot of hockey players, even the fans, and even some of you guys, what got them into hockey was that their families were already into it. Their dads were into it, or you know what I mean, their family. And so between those 2 things, Keller, I checked to see how I was related to him, and the other is there's these family connections, these strings that run through it, and even the players on the team now that have new families, it's so cool that they want to introduce their families. You see their wives down at the games, and they bring their kids up to the ice before that. I don't know. So I just, that part of it really engaged me and kind of fueled me. And then also some of those guys have pretty cool names. And so even Keller is a fairly common name, but when you're looking up a Kesselring or a Dursey or, these really cool, unique names, it's a little bit easier to find the vein of data and kind of find where they're at, as opposed to a Smith or a Jones or something like that that's a lot more common. So that's kind of where I started.
I won't ask how you were related to Keller. We'll just say, if you want to know the answer, go watch what he's put together. What I want to know is, have you found anything like interesting, like Sergachev is a second cousin of one of Manson's disciples or anything like that? What's the most interesting like lineage or connection that you've found doing this?
Yeah, I knew you would ask me that. And so I'm kind of in this torn spot because I want people to watch and I want to give everything away, right? But I will say that there's some players that it's harder to find information on than other players, right? So Sergachev is it's really hard unless he's talked about it in the American media. Like I have photos of his family and of his parents because his parents have been here. I know where his hometown is and things like that. But Russian genealogy, especially a foreign language, is a little bit harder for me. But one of the players, Gunther, his genealogy is really unique. Of all the players, I haven't been able to dive in extremely deep on it, but I think he has 5 different main heritage lines from all over the world. So like representing like 4 different continents in his genealogy. And so it's cool to kind of see that. There's several sets of twins that are involved, which I don't think you've heard of anyone being a twin. I don't want to give away too much there because there's a cool story there. Let's see, what was another one? I'm sorry I'm not trying to be secretive. Like the one I'm working on now that'll come out this next week, there's like these little weird facts. So a lot of the hockey players, their lineage comes either they're Canadian, like, they are Canadian or their family was Canadian, but then their lines go back into Eastern European countries. And I think it's just really unique. Now, not all of them are that way. Keller's not, Doan's not, but there are a lot of lines that way. But the one I'm working on for this next week, he has 2 family members that are both from North America even, that grew up in towns named Berlin, separate towns, not the same town. And then during the First World War, they had to change the names of the towns because, the whole German thing. And so I don't know, it's just really cool that he's got 2 lines of his family and they both lived in this Berlin and in North America. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's just cool things like that. So I'm not trying to be too cryptic because I do want to kind of hold things back for the show, but I don't know. I hope I answered your question.
I think it's going to be so fun to listen. And I just have one big ask. If you haven't already done the Nick Schmaltz show, give me all the Nick Schmaltz info. I need it. If you haven't done him, deep dive him. What you see, especially when we're talking about this Fanley Cup series, a lot of the discussion has all been around the family connection, whether that's a individual family coming together and loving hockey, or fans coming together as like the Utah Hockey Club family, and it's all this overarching family. And I think it's so cool that you're actually taking that to the next level of going into the genealogy aspect of it. And I watched your first episode, which is phenomenal. Everybody needs to go watch it, and we'll drop the actual hashtag. I just believe it's at Hockey Related, but he's on YouTube. He's got his Twitter account, and the way you're weaving it in for the new fans of hockey, but as well as people like me who I know Utah has a ton of resources for genealogy, but I don't really know much about it. And so your show is going to cater to people like me, as your same kind of thing as you're listening to our show, and we're throwing out these hockey stats. When you're talking about genealogy terms and stuff, you're going to go and define that for the new people new to that thing so that they can also follow along. Is that correct? Just to kind of guide new and old fans of hockey and genealogy as you intermix the two.
Yeah, and I've just seen some similarities there in the way that people teach and things like that. And of course, it's a passion. Genealogy is a passion of mine. I've been doing it for about 25 years. I've actually worked for one of the companies. I've worked there for the last 10 years. So it's really fun. But I think it's really interesting because the largest genealogical library in the world is in Salt Lake City. And so I just think it's cool. You hear the players and their families, even the broadcasters, they all moved here from Arizona, and they're all discovering things that are here. And they're all, they talk about the mountains. I saw that Belle Frazier went down to Canyonlands and to Arches, or she went to Arches with her dad this last week. And so it's so cool to see them investigate all that. But I think sometimes they overlook this real gem that's here. I mean, people come from all around the world to visit that library. But I do think that there's a barrier to entry, right? And so in hockey, maybe the barrier to entry is financial, or it's, I don't know. It was really easy for me to get into hockey, but I think for genealogy, people think that there's a bigger barrier than there really is. And really all it is about family. It's just about stories. And the cool thing about it is we all can relate to it in some way or another. So yeah, I found out how I'm related to Clayton Keller, but there's more stories to that. I think when we watched him playing in the men's world championship and earning that gold, like I think we all felt a little sense of pride for that team and joy for him, right? Like I don't know, a little part of me feels weird wearing a sweater for someone who's so much younger than me, but I love him, right? I feel so much pride for him and I just back him. And so when he did that, it was such a source of joy and happiness. And I think it is that way for everyone. And that's how you feel about family, right? That's how we feel about each other. And these experiences, not only that we have now, but that their ancestors have, we all can relate to them too, because either our ancestors did it, or we've learned about those things, or we've had similar experiences, or we've been to those places. And so I think, there's a different way to relate to hockey that's a little bit deeper in a way I can contribute, right? Like now here's my expertise. This is what I learned in my little nerdy, computer time while I'm watching the games. These are cool things that I learned and that we get to share and learn about together.
Now, I used to work at a hotel downtown, and there were a lot of people who came in for a convention. I believe it was called like Roots Tech or something like that. And I know a lot of people in the local predominant faith are really into genealogy and finding out where their family comes from and the lineage. Have you found anything like notable or really cool in your own history? That's not going to spoil anything for the podcast, but sort of kind of put you on the spot. There might not be an answer to this, but what's the coolest thing that you found in your family's line?
Oh, so now I'm nerding out, right? Now I'm going to nerd out. So everyone, a lot of people, like, they want to find out if they're related to royalty, right? Like, is Kesserling, a king? They call him king. Is he real?
Yeah.
What if he's related to a king, right? But I think we all want to find those things out. And yeah, I mean, if you go back in the roots far enough, I think we all can find how we're related to, some famous person. And I can show people there's a cool website where once your data is in their website, they'll show you, like, I'm related to John Wayne, and I'm related to Harrison Ford, and I'm related to, like, there's all these cool people, or Shirley Temple, and it'll show you all of that. But for me, they have this thing, it's called a brick wall ancestor. So you're working on your ancestry and you just can't get past it. Like there's this blank hole and you can't get past it. And it was my mother's father. And I just, like, it was this big mystery and I couldn't figure it out. And I don't know, I had 10 years of work putting into it, trying to find it out. And then the DNA testing started coming out, and I all of a sudden had a match with this relative that I didn't. I'm like, who, how am I related to this person? Right? The names didn't match. The names didn't anything. But anyway, come to find out, and so this is a skeleton in the family closet. But he was married and was living in California. He had a wife and he had a couple kids, and I think things just went bad and he just disappeared. So on all the records, after a certain point, she is shown as a widow. Like he died somehow and is a widow. Well, he changed his name and he took his first name and made it his last name, and took his last name and made it his first name. And he moved to Reno, or Lake Tahoe is before anything was really up there. He married somebody else and then had a whole family. And my grandma is actually named after his pseudonym, like not his real name, this name he changed it to. So I don't know, it was kind of a juicy bit. That's not, it's not a famous relative or anything like that, but I don't know, unwinding that puzzle. I'm not sure my mom was thrilled about that, about finding that information, but I don't know. It was just this cool, I don't think some people, when they get into their genealogy, they find information. They're like, oh, I really didn't want to know that, or I may have been better, especially with the DNA stuff. I found 4 first cousins that aren't related, or that no one knew, you know what I mean, in my family. So through DNA. So there's some things people don't want to know, but I just think there's really cool nuggets of everything. So my kids, they always just want to know who the famous people are that we're related to, and we can figure that out as well.
That's so cool. I think that story with that brick wall, that could be a movie. So let's get Jerry Bruckheimer on the phone, and because that could be on Netflix, and maybe people don't want to find things out, but they stumble on things that's just pure human drama, right? Like that's what we sign up for. So that is so fantastic, and you have to go check it out. So this is new episodes. When do you have a release schedule or anything of when you're going to like when you want to release your episodes?
I've been trying to do them on Tuesdays. It's ended up being really late Mondays, but late Mondays. I get up, I finish editing and try and post them Monday, so then I can start sharing and things like that on Tuesdays. So that's generally when a lot of people start seeing them, as Tuesdays. And I think I have 17 lined out, and that will get us to about before the next season starts, because there's a lack of a lot of hockey. I think there'll be a lack of a lot of hockey content between now and then, and so it'll be a good summer experience. But it's not deep depth knowledge about hockey. It's about the players and their families and things like that.
That's just stories that we don't get to hear, but I think that everybody will enjoy hearing. I know I loved your first episode, so I'm excited to see what else you're cooking up. So that's the at hockey related. We're excited to see that project move forward and to see what you got. It's going to be a good time for everybody. And speaking of good times for everybody, let's talk about the good times you had in the Utah Hockey Club's inaugural season. So you're coming at it fresh, right? You're a new fan. You've got that excitement level. So talk us through that first season, experiencing it, whether it was in person or through the phenomenal work of SEG Media as you consumed that first season. Walk us through what that first year was like for a new fan like yourself.
Yeah, well, when we started, I even didn't understand the line rotations and what the first line and second line was, right? And how the defensive rotations worked and things like that. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't understand. And then you throw in the injuries, and it was really hard for me to track players and who they were and things like that. But as games went on, I found pride in myself, I guess, that I know who that is, and games like that. But so I went to a game in November. I can't remember what game that was, but the first game that I was at, and you've heard this before already, but I was at that Carolina game, the veggie game, and I was there with my wife, and we'd paid for the ticket, like fairly good seats. We went to celebrate something. I can't remember what it was. Sorry, honey, I can't remember what the celebration was, but that. In that moment, the veggie, and for me it was brand new, but I didn't realize it was new for everyone else either. And so at first I didn't even know what people were saying. I'm like, what is it that they're saying? And so that was great. I really Panthers to his last second game winner. Didn't he have 2 games in a row where he got the game winner in the end of the game? I think that really bought me in. So I don't know. For me, it was kind of learning the plays, starting to understand, realizing that the blue line was more than just the line in the ice for offside, that the blue line also meant defense, because that's a little hard of a translation, right? When they're talking about the blue line, and their blue line are people, and blue, not an inanimate object in the ice, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I just had these benchmarks where I started really understanding. And so I went to 8 games this year. I went 1 in November, 3 in January, and then a lot there toward the end. We took advantage of those Smith ticks, the $10 tickets as well. And I brought my kids to, which I'm glad I brought my kids, but it limited the number of games I got to go to, because I guess they limit how many tickets you get. But anyway, so I hope I answered that question right. But it really, I don't know, as I watch the games and I could get more involved, and I could tell, I already knew when someone was offside, and I already knew when icing was going to be called, and I already knew, you know what I mean? There were too many players or too many people on the ice. Except that I'll tell you, there was that one game where Keller, I thought he was on the ice and he was holding his feet up above the ice, and I don't know. I can't remember what game that was, but anyway, that kind of confused me for a while. But like I said, I have a good friend at work that he had season tickets, and he took me to a couple games. And so he was really nice to sit down and kind of explain things to me as well. So I don't know. It was about halfway through the season, I realized that I could see a picture of the players, and knew who they were without reading their sweater, right? Their jersey. And then I don't know, I felt some pride there as well. And then there's just really great groups on the internet, just people that just talk about it and learn about it. There's great podcasts like you guys where, you just talk about things and games that happen. And so it helps me to process what happened in the games. And I don't know, the whole thing has just been this great learning process.
They used to say, at least I used to say, I don't know if anybody still does, but once you knew how to explain icing, then the rest will come naturally, right? You're talking about it was something that I didn't really think about until I heard you say it about like blue line. If you're a new fan and you're focusing on the blue line, the line on the ice, and then you hear like blue liners talking about defensemen, like I didn't put that together as how confusing that could be for like a new fan because, I don't know, I guess I just kind of grew up on it. But let me ask you, Matt. So you said like icing. Are you clear on icing? Even these newfangled no touch icing rules?
Well, they're not new to me, right?
So right, you didn't know the no touch icing days, huh? So,
yeah. So I don't know the difference. In fact, the two line pass. You guys mentioned that in one of the. I had to go look that up. I've looked up quite a few things. What was the other one that I'm like, I don't understand what that is? It was the Bill Armstrong GMBA. Everyone calls him GMBA. I'm like, what? I'm embarrassed to say I had to Google that. What is GMBA? What does that mean?
I did too. My only explanation for it is it's a Twitter thing because of the limited number of characters that you can use. It was just easier to shorten it to because I was like, when I first heard that, I was like, is this some like advanced stat they're trying to talk about? Like what are they even saying? I had no idea what GMBA. So I'm right there with you, Matt. Don't feel bad about that. I had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out plus minus. I'll tell you that. I don't understand that, the plus minus. I'll get to it. I'll get there, but I don't understand it now.
Plus minus is one of the, I wouldn't even, it's one of the, in hockey and basketball, it's one of the most useless stats. Like, it shows, like, you can have a guy come on the ice, and as soon as he steps on the ice, two other players make a play, so they're plus1 because something happened as they were stepping on the ice, and it's a stat that's basically useless, so if you don't understand it, just forget about it. It's okay.
Oh, good.
If you're on the ice and your team scores, +1. If you're on the ice and your team gets scored on, -1. Doesn't include power plays. That's the simple. But you'll see, like all of our, it's one of those like, certain players. Oh, look how great his plus minus is. Look how great his plus minus is. Or he must be bad because he's -17 or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't always tell the whole story. Certainly not the individual stories. Yeah, you've got everything else in the bag. Just like I see behind you, envious, sir, of that collection you have behind you. Now, of all the jerseys you have, and now you've got all the players that you've learned them, and now you can associate them, you got to pick one. Who's your favorite player on this Utah Mammoth team?
I knew you were going to ask that question. So I've been thinking about it too, because, I've been watching and I know you asked the question. So can I answer it in two ways? Can I answer my favorite player and then my favorite one because of the research that I've done? How's that?
Yes.
So how about, and here's the truth. The truth is, going in, Keller was it. I got 2 Keller jerseys. I got the home and away, and Keller, and I love him. But I will say that as I got to know other players, they grew on me too. And so I think by the end of the season, Sergachev really, and I think I leaned defensively anyway, and so it was really great. And Veggie, he had a great season too. But so if you twisted my arm, it's a coin toss between Keller and Sergachev for me. But Keller was like, going in, he was the captain. He was kind of the known thing. But as I've learned about Sergachev, I really appreciate him and his personality and his love for his family, right? How's that? And now genealogy wise, I will say, without giving too much away, I remember thinking, what is the deal with Kerfoot? Now his name is cool name to research, right? That's so unique and so cool. But I remember everyone's like, I looked and I'm like, is he top 6? Like, what's the deal with Kerfoot? And then, he's a Harvard grad. He scored a game winner in the Stanley Cup when he played for, he scored a game winner in the Stanley Cup when he played for the Bolts. I had no idea. Like, anyway, as doing research for him, I've just learned cool things about him and his family. And so genealogy wise, if my Hall of Fame Kerfoot definitely would be on there. And so then, because I've learned about him in that way, now I appreciate him so much more and how he contributes. He could play anywhere on the ice. Like, he is such a great utility player, and he's great in the locker room. Like, he's great support. It was cool to watch him and Dursey when they went to New York and to that museum and talked about the Mammoth stuff. Like, I don't know, he's just a great, smart guy. I've seen a ton of video of him too with his woolly beard. Like, he had a big old beard, and so I don't know. I've learned to appreciate him a lot more too. So I guess a spoiler is I am definitely got one for Kerfoot that's loaded and gonna go pretty soon. So.
Yeah, I don't want to diminish Clayton Keller, right? He's a phenomenal player, and his nickname is Mr. Versatile, But I think that's probably more apt to give to Alex Kerfoot, because Alex Kerfoot just plays everywhere. Like you said, I think he was on all 4 lines throughout the season. He plays on the penalty kill. I'm pretty sure he played a bit on the power play. Like, he's just a player that does it all, and anything you ask him to do, Alex Kerfoot's going to do it. So that is an excellent selection. I'm excited to hear more about his history and his lineage. And I don't know that I did not know that he had scored that game winner, but he's just good. He's just a good all around player.
Yeah, I didn't know either until I found out.
Now, one thing I love to ask, I think you pretty much already touched on it. You mentioned a couple of your favorite moments. So I guess I'll just, that's normally my default, like, go-to question. So what I'll pivot to instead is one that I've asked some of our fans, and I'll ask this first just to clarify. What is your opinion on Liam O'Brien, Mr. Spicy Tuna, one of the first men that you could recognize on the team? Do you like seeing him on the ice?
Yeah, I do. Like, I see what his role is, and it's exactly the same thing as it was at that opening meeting or whatever that was, the fan event that they did, where he got up there and he pumped everyone up, and he knows what his role is there. I started watching some of his fights. Like, he likes to get in the fights. I'm not sure how many of those he's actually won, right? Like, so I understand what his role is, and I understand him. I love his personality. I like what you guys have kind of pitched about maybe him doing a Nashcast type broadcast. I would definitely watch that. Like, that
is exactly where I was going. That was going to lead me into that. Would you watch the Tuna Can or whatever name they give it? Because I'm going to compile all the answers that we've got that are in support of this and forward it to SEG Media. Just say, hey, look, people want this. This is a way to maybe we can move on in his career, but people want to see him on TV, get him in his own show. No offense meant towards Nash, but I don't think it's the super popular venue of watching the show, just because he doesn't have the local ties. Get Tuna on there, and I'm not going to go too much into my rant, because if you listen to this podcast, you've heard it from both Brandon and I before. But this is another listener, another viewer, another fan who's in support, who would watch Liam O'Brien, the Spicy Tuna, on TV. So just SEG Media, just make it happen. Just find a way. Make it happen. Talk to the man. Give him that job.
Yeah,
Brandon,
I agree.
I need you to add to the sales pitch. I need you.
This is free market research we're doing for you, Ryan. Like, this is what you made your billions on, and we're just gifting it to you for free.
And we don't even have to
give us anything.
We don't even have to do a fake vote for the team mascot thing to get all the information. Just here it is. They love the tuna. Put them on the TV.
Yep. Just make the right decision, Ryan. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. The people want it. This is what the people are craving. Matt, do you agree?
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, his family story is pretty cool too, and the way he has a new family, and he's just one of those guys rough on the outside. He's not really rough on the outside. He wants to portray that, but he's not. But just tender on the inside. His family, what a great connection. So yeah, I think he has the personality for it, but I also think he has the heart for it as well.
I think that might be one of the reasons why he loves to fight, but he loses his more than his fair share when he gets in those fights. He's got the beard. He tries to do the like manly lumberjack, like I'll knock your block off type personality, but just he's inside. He's just a big cuddly teddy bear, and those guys just they don't fight with their heart in it, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's where the issues stem from. He just needs. Who was it the other night, Brandon? That was just bashing Nurse in the face over and over and over. Like that's the ruthless aggression that you need to be an on ice goon. Just bam, 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 like he was to Nurse.
I don't even know if I can pronounce his name right. It's like Jadovich or something, but he's the bruiser from Florida. And that dude can fight. I would not want to test him. But did you guys know it did not seem real to me when I heard that we led the league in fights last season. I knew we fought a lot, but I did not believe the statistic when I heard it. But the Utah Hockey Club led the NHL in fights last season. So we had a feisty team overall.
Yeah. McBain got into it quite a bit, and I loved it when Sergachev would. I mean, he popped a couple guys just expertly, you know what I mean, and let them know instantly. So yeah,
that's a little surprising to me, based on our little back and forth, a group chat that we have with you, I, and Randon and Ryan. How many times we've mentioned that the team was not defending their goalie. That they would fight so much, but wouldn't step up to throw hands for either Veggie or Ingram. Just fight, protect your guy.
It's like, I guess it's one of those differences between, like, you see it a lot, like, so game 3 of the Stanley Cup final was like the perfect example of like the differences like between like scrums and the actual fights. And Utah, we liked the actual fights. We didn't like the after the whistle scrums, whether that's a discipline thing. The coach was like, just don't get involved or whatever the case may be. But we want to see more scrums, less overall fights. But I do want to segue into, so speaking of the tuna can, I want to stay with SEG Media, if you'll allow us, Matt. So you went to, you said you went to 8 games in person, about right for me as well. And like you said, that Smith Sticks thing was so great with the free hot dog, free, but it's $10 tickets and free hot dogs and water. Like, you can't go wrong there. But you watched almost everything else on SEG Media. I heard that correctly?
Yeah.
Did you ever catch, they didn't do this for every game, just like they didn't do the Nashcast for every game, but did you ever see them try they had Nick Olczyk do it at first, and then it was kind of a standalone, the lab? Did you ever catch that portion of SEG Media?
The lab? You mean the dog? The dog lab?
No, not the black lab. They had a version of it that they called the lab, where it had like Nick Olczyk and some other and a couple other personalities, and it had like the stats on the screen. It showed who was on the ice or their total on ice time, and it showed like just stats about like their skating speed and just different stats up on the bottom and the right hand side of the screen, with the play, but the action just a little bit smaller, just sort of like you'd see on like Sports Center or something like that, where it has what they're talking about across the side and across the bottom, and it wasn't the play-by-play. They would be talking about some of the just different things about the ice and the game itself, rather than just calling the game play-by-play. I would assume, since you don't know what Randon's talking about, you didn't watch one of those broadcasts.
Well, and I've got the game on no matter what, right? But I'm also sometimes I'm doing genealogy and learning about stuff. So I'll be hearing what's going on, and then when something action happens, I'll turn and watch it. But if I don't know. So I vaguely remember that early on in the season, though, I didn't understand a lot of the stats. You know what I mean? And I coached soccer for a while, and so some of the soccer rules, offside and things like that, I had to deprogram myself with that too. And so I think I focused more on the action on the ice and not as much as what happened there. So sorry, I don't recall that specific part.
If that was even helpful or overwhelming, or the perception of a newer fan, if you had caught it.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, even the whole the points versus scoring, right? The points leader and the scoring leader are not the same person. So that even was confusing for me at the very first. You get a point if you assist and assist. right? I understand it now. So I was watching things like that, and even shot on goal, like even that simple stat that they were showing. Sometimes I was like, I thought that was a shot on goal. I don't understand. You know what I mean? I had to figure that out. So maybe I would have got lost more in the stats. I don't know. Now I think I would. I think you're right. I would like to be able to see that and follow along and kind of get. It's kind of like when I was a kid and watched baseball, the baseball stats were a big thing. That's kind of how you knew the players, is by the stats. And so I think I would like that. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a more simple person, but it took me a while to figure out the whole point versus score thing and the shots on goal thing. So I don't know.
I could totally see like a new fan, like if it showed a player's name and then it said like TOI and a number and then PIM and then a number, a new fan just like, I don't know what this is. Just get me to the regular game. And I know the first time they did that on SEG Plus, like if you went to the game, it just defaulted to that. And there was a way, like if you push down and then over, you could select the normal broadcast, and it was tough to get to. And then they changed that. They made it a little bit easier. Like on the SEG like home screen, it had the game and the Nashcast, and you could select what one you wanted rather than just defaulting to it. And so like that's one thing I like to give them credit for, is they learned as they went on. And you mentioned you went to a couple of games, like you went to a game in, I think you said November, and then some in January. What did you notice, like either in arena or on SEG Plus, where like maybe early in the season you're like, man, I wish they would do this, and then later on they were doing it, or some of the music choices that they made, like no longer playing a song when the opponent scored? What did you notice anything that they improved on throughout the season?
I did notice that. I thought it was weird, and actually I did think it was weird that they played a song after the other team scored, almost like a victory song. And I did notice that they stopped doing that. And I did notice that the music had changed, but I think the reason I noticed that is because people were really talking about it on X a lot. The people were really complaining about it. And so I don't know if I would have noticed as a going into it kind of a fan. But I did notice it got less like basketball, like the Jazz games were, and much more of a, what do I want to say? I don't know. Not that the music got older, but it was easy. It was easier to follow along with. It was less hip hop or electronic and more, maybe rock is what I'm trying to say. But I did notice that.
Excuse me. Before we move into rapid fire, the more I thought about it, about the musical choices, I'd heard that they maybe had fired the first DJ, but I kind of wanted to defend him. So go with me on this, gentlemen, if you will. So I remember going to Utah Grizzly hockey games. Now, this is like where the average attendance is probably 4,500. A great game gets 10,000, but there's times where you're sitting there with 2,000 or less in a sizable arena. Maverick Center is not a small arena. So what I think they were drawing from is that experience where I remember so many times where they would play like that song after the opponent scores, and they would do that. But that's because you're trying to kind of entertain a relatively small group of fans in a small, like the opponent just scored, nothing's happening, we're all silent. But then now turn to the Delta Center, right, where you've sold out, you've got 16,000 plus, and at least on any given game, at least 2,000 of them are for the other team, sometimes significantly more. So it's like, that like, oh, I'm sad, let's play a sad, funny song that the opponent scored, kind of turned into, because now it's on the backdrop of thousands of opposing fans now cheering while they're hearing a song. So my heart's out to him. I as a Grizzly fan, like I maybe get where he was going with it, but poorly executed. So sorry DJ, but overall, I'm glad it's corrected. But Matt, as we wind this episode down, before we get into the rapid fire, is there anything else you want to talk about, or any thoughts you want to get off your chest?
The only thing I thought about was how great I thought that the Four Nations tournament was. And I think that was a real turning point for me as a fan as well, because not only did I felt like I was pretty, deep in with the team and got to know the players and everything like that. But I really felt like for me, that was an introduction to the league, to the whole NFL, and where I could become a fan of more. I mean, I'm not never returned the back on the Mammoth, right, or the Utah Hockey Club. They're my team, but I also can learn to appreciate some of those other players, even outside of our country, or that were playing for the other team. But boy, that first game with Canada, but that was such a great game, and the speed of the game was really different. I don't know, just the fans were different, and so it kind of ramped me up, and it was great. I thought it was a great point. I think it changed the way I kind of watch hockey, and I think it really helped me get prepared for how different the playoffs really were, and how the game, the speed of the game and things like that. So I don't know. That was the only thing I thought that might come out. That necessarily didn't, was how much I really enjoyed that, and I didn't know that was a new thing either, right? Like I thought that was just what they did. So I was ready for. I was telling my friend from work, he's from Sweden, so he wears the yellow jerseys to the games and all that. And so I was trying to talk to him about it, and he's like, no, that's not a normal thing. This is a new thing. So I felt kind of cool that I was here for that, and to be able to enjoy that and make that part of my learning and my experience this year for hockey.
I love that as a new fan you got to experience that, because I think there's the trying to replace the All-Star game, which I think we're all familiar enough with sports to know, like All-Star games are this weird thing where it's like it's an exhibition game for the fans, but then sometimes the players don't really take it seriously. You look at the NBA All-Star game, like it's just who can shoot the ball better, because nobody plays defense. Nobody wants to get injured. And then you've got the MLB who took it to like, okay, well, the winning team or the winning league gets home field in the World Series to try to make it more meaningful. And then it just like, it devolves into like this hyper chess match of like, how many pitchers can you play for a third of an inning? And it's like, for those like deep down baseball fans, that's probably exciting, right? That chess match. But for your casual fan, no. But for a casual hockey fan or a new fan to the sport, the intensity, the speed, and the high level of skill that Four Nations displayed, I think is going to set the standard. And I hope to never see another NHL All-Star game, because I want desperately just to see Four Nations or Eight Nations, whatever it expands to be, all the time, because it was as close to playoff hockey as you will see that isn't playoff hockey. Like, right. That's how good those guys were playing, and everybody took it seriously. Even Matt Tkachuk got injured, but I don't think that was ever a concern for him. He was never going to not play his best, his hardest, worrying about whether he's going to get injured, even a potential season-ending injury, which he almost suffered, but he still left it all out on the ice. And I think that was so great and such a great service for new and old fans alike. So excellent point for that. All right, Dustin, introduce the most pivotal moment in entertainment history.
All right, so I believe you're familiar with this. You've already addressed it. You said you're prepared for rapid fire, but just to double check, we're going to hit you with 5 rapid fire questions. No thinking, no expanding, just top of the head, what your first thing that comes to you, quick answer without expanding on it. That's rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Top of their game, burger or pizza?
Burger.
All things considered, University of Utah or BYU?
BYU.
Big spoon or little spoon?
Big spoon.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes, it is.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
That's a great question. Ducks scare me. I would go for 100 duck-sized horses.
Do you think you'd win the fight?
No.
I don't know if I would either. They're not as bad as geese, but ducks are territorial.
I think that's the answer, just based on the fact that a horse-sized duck that could fly, you have no chance fighting anything that is that big and can fly. So I think you made the right. There's no wrong answers in rapid fire, but I think that's the right answer.
I really appreciate that question. I'm so glad it wasn't about the stock market or about gold or
Do you have any tips?
No,
I need money for next year's tickets. No. So if you got any tips, lay them on me.
My oldest son works for Fidelity, and even he can't give tips. So
The hottest stock tip that you can get is just to follow one of those accounts that tells you what all of our congressmen and women are doing, and buy and sell what they're buying and selling, because they're insider trading. They're breaking the law. They know what's going to happen. So if you just do what they're doing, you're set.
For sure.
This is good times. Hey, this has been such a fun conversation. It's been so fantastic to have you on the show and get your thoughts throughout the season and hear the great things that you're doing, the project that you're doing, and the show that you're creating. I'm so excited to hear more about that. Do you want to let the fans know for sure? Because I think I maybe was overgeneral, but let them know where they can find it and get in touch with you about it.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that. So I couldn't get the actual hockey related, those words. And so a lot of the times I've got the number 8 in there. So it's REL, the number 8, and then TED, hockey related that way. But I'm on all of the platforms. Most, you can get a hold of me the very best on Twitter. And then we've got it on YouTube, and then we're doing more shorts and reels on other social media platforms as well.
Excellent. Well, hockey related, that's the handle on Twitter and on YouTube. So go out, go follow, and follow Matt as well, just individually. He's a phenomenal fan, a great person in general, and you guys are, trust me, you're going to like the show that he is creating, and I'm excited to see more. Dustin, do you have any closing thoughts before we get on out of here?
I did, but I forgot it, so I'll just let it be lost in the ether forever.
It's gone forever. Matt, anything for you? Any final thoughts?
No, just thank you so much. It's really great to be able to know you guys, or get to know you guys. And I was a little, not intimidated, but I don't know. I was definitely excited. You made it really nice, and I hope that we'll be able to interact and cross paths and get to know each other even better going forward. So thank you.
Absolutely. The one thing I've learned from doing this is this has been one of my favorite parts of the podcast, is talking to fans, getting to know them more. We have such a great community here in Utah, and we absolutely not only will be doing Fanley Cup next year, but throughout the season. Anytime you want to come on and talk about, or maybe we could do a segment where after a couple of episodes you come on and you talk about the behind the scenes of that as well. But I don't want to take too much away from your show, because I'm excited to see what you come up with, and I want that to grow. But we will absolutely have you back on, my friend. And thank you guys out there for listening. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Matt as well. As always, guys, I'm Randon. This is Dustin. The Fanley Cup Series is coming to an end. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. You have a great night.